one this week at the box office. Did Beekeeper hold strong enough to topple Mean Girls and take that top spot? We're going to find out right now on Does It Hold Up? Box Office Edition. I'm Adam, and let's get to those numbers. In first place at the box office this past weekend was Mean Girls in its third week. It took in another $6.9 million, only a 41% drop, and it's crossed the $60 million mark so far. Beekeeper came in second in its third week with a very close $6.6 million, only a 22% drop. It seems to be holding stronger week to week, so I wouldn't be surprised if it eventually surpassed Mean Girls. Probably not for that first spot, but it's gonna do better one of these weekends than the musical. Wonka stays in third place in its seventh week with another $5.6 million, only 16% drop. It's very close to crossing the $200 million mark. Migration is in fourth place yet again in its sixth week with $4.9 million, only a 10% drop, and it has crossed $100 million. Anyone But You stays in fifth place in its sixth week with another $4.6 million, a 14% drop, but it's doing all right. In sixth place, new to the list, is Fighter with $3.6 million. It's made $4.2 million so far because it came out earlier in the week. In seventh place is Poor Things, moving up from last week with $2.9 million, a 37% increase over last week. It's taken in just under $25 million already. In its seventh week in eighth place is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom with $2.7 million, a 26% drop. In ninth place, coming back to the list after many weeks out, is Godzilla Minus One with $2.7 million, a 290% increase over its previous weekend. That's massive, especially because this movie's taken in $55.1 million since it was first released. And in 10th place is American Fiction, which is new to this list, but it is in its ninth week of release. It took in just under $2.6 million, a 48% increase over last weekend, $11.5 million total gross so far. If you take a look at the three of those bottom five movies, you can see Poor Things, Godzilla Minus One, and American Fiction. They all got what is known as the Oscar bump. After being nominated for a few categories at the Academy Awards, theaters are going to start pushing these movies a little bit more because people are going to be interested in checking them out. They want to see what made these movies so special that they got nominated for what many consider to be the biggest award in the film and film world. Three movies dropped out of the top 10 this week. First was ISS after just 1 week, rather disappointing. Night Swim, another horror movie after 3 weeks, and The Boys in the Boat after 4 weeks. So I talked about the Academy Awards bump, the Oscar bump, for some of the movies that are currently in the top 10. And it got me thinking about the Oscar pictures in general, especially the category Best Picture, because a lot of times those movies are ones that very few people went and saw until they got nominated. But I was curious. I wanted to take a look at the 10 movies that got that nomination this year and take a look at what their current box office success looks like. So let's go ahead and go through this one by one and see kind of what we're dealing with. So in no particular order, let's go ahead and go through the Academy Awards Best Picture nominees for 2023. First, we have Oppenheimer, who right now is the frontrunner to win this award. And it took in $328 million, a massive amount of money for a bio picture about an historical event. Kind of interesting. We have Barbie with $636.2 million, obviously the biggest movie of 2023, so to get a nomination here is absolutely incredible. It could be that the Academy is just hoping more people will watch the show this year because such a massive hit is nominated, or they really did think it was one of the best pictures of the year. I would disagree with that, but that's another story for another time. American Fiction has taken in $11.5 million so far. Killers of the Flower Moon, $67.5 million. Poor Things, which is currently still doing pretty well at the box office, staying in that top 10, has taken in $24.6 million. Anatomy of a Fall, $4.1 million. The Zone of Interest, which is a movie that I don't think a lot of people even know exist, but it's something I feel like a lot of people are going to be checking out, especially after the multiple nominations this movie received for the Academy Awards. Not just Best Picture. It's taken in just over $3 million. The Holdovers, which was a big success when it first came out, a lot of people were talking about it, it's an outside chance to actually sneak in and win this award, but I don't think that's going to happen. It made $19.3 million. Bradley Cooper's Maestro. You'll see on the chart here it says NA, and that's because this is a Netflix original movie. They own the rights to it. And they did release it in theaters. They put it out for 1 week because to be eligible for the Academy Awards, a movie must play in select theaters for at least 1 week during the nomination year. So it did play in a few theaters in Los Angeles for a week, but Netflix never reports the gross of any of the movies they put in theaters. We can take an educated guess, but it's going to be far off from what it would actually be. So we're going to go ahead and leave that as NA. And the 10th movie nominated in the category is Past Lives, which came out earlier in 2023, had a great theatrical run, making just under $11 million for a movie that I don't think many people were interested in seeing or even knew was released. So that's looking at the current nominations for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. And as we can see, most of those movies weren't that successful in the box office. They're very low tier movies that people did go and check out, but they didn't really flock to the theaters to see. But is that always the case? Because I know a lot of people complain that the Academy Awards is kind of a snuffy award show. It really only likes celebrating movies that are underseen and that the general audience doesn't even know about. And it makes it hard for people to get invested in this ceremony because they don't know half of these movies. And you know what? They're not wrong. In fact, we're going to now take a look at every Best Picture winner from 2012 until the projected winner this year, 2023, and see what their box office gross looked like and where they ranked in the top movies of the year they were released. So let's go ahead and take a look, starting with 2023, Oppenheimer. This one is projected to win this award, so that's why it's on this list, and it made that $328 million. It was the 5th highest grossing movie of the year that it was released. Last year's winner, 2022, Everything Everywhere All at Once. This was a movie that everybody was talking about, everybody was going to see. You're thinking, oh man, it made so much money. In 2022, it actually only made about $70 million. Now, it did go on to make about 77 total, but a lot of that came after either the nominations were announced or after it won Best Picture, theaters put it back out, so people were going to see it again. We're not going to include that $7 million here because I can't guarantee when that actually fell in line with the total gross. So every movie on this list is only dealing with the amount of money they made in the calendar year they were released before the nominations. In 2021, the Best Picture winner was Coda, which was an Apple TV release. So it didn't get a theatrical release on the scale of a lot of these other movies. So it actually had, again, an NA. There is no number for how much this made while it was released in theaters. In 2020, Nomadland ended up winning Best Picture. It had $3.7 million total gross. Here's why it gets a little weird. You can see on the chart here, it says NA for where it would have ranked in the calendar year. And that's because Nomadland only released in a very few select theaters in 2020, late 2020. It didn't get its wide release until January 2021, the same year that it actually won the award. So it's a little confusing here, but even making only $3.7 million, yes, the box office was down that year because of the global bastard that was happening at the time, but that's a really small number. It would have ranked somewhere probably in the 150 to 200 range of that year. In 2019, Parasite picked up the award for Best Picture. It was the 92nd highest grossing film of the year with $23.8 million. In 2018, Green Book made $35 million, but that was only good enough for 85th place. 2017, The Shape of Water made $15.6 million, putting it in the 118th spot. Moonlight from 2016 made $12.6 million, only 135th. So far, the lowest ranking Best Picture winner. In 2015, Spotlight won, only taking in $27 million, 92nd place. Matched Parasite there. They were both 92nd and went on to win. Birdman in 2014 was the 105th ranked movie with $24.2 million. 2013 was 12 Years a Slave with $38.4 million, only reached the 81st spot. And Argo, all the way back in 2012, made it to the 25th highest grossing film of the year with $110.1 million. So taking a look at all of these pictures here, you can see that Oppenheimer, if it does win this year, will be the highest ranking film to win in quite a long time. The second highest was Argo, all the way back in 2012 in the 25th spot. But if we take a look at the last year's winner with Everything Everywhere All at Once, it was the 27th highest grossing film. So that's a good thing. Maybe the Academy is starting to realize that just because a movie made a lot of money doesn't mean it's a bad movie. And you can actually nominate and give the award to high grossing films, because that way people will actually care. And if you want people to watch your show, people need to actually care. How do you get people to care? Nominate movies that they probably saw in the theaters. It's really simple, and it's amazing to me that it's actually taken this long for the Academy to figure it out. Idiots. When was the last time a movie did really well at the box office and got nominated and won the Best Picture award? Well, for that, we're going to go all the way back to 2006. Martin Scorsese's The Departed. It made $120.3 million. It was the 15th highest grossing film of the year that it was released, and then it went on to win Best Picture. That was 17 years ago. That's insane. But we have to go back even farther if we want to see the last time one of the top 5 grossing movies of the year won Best Picture. We don't have to go back that much farther from The Departed, only about 3 years, to 2003 with The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, which made $290.4 million the year it was released, which is insane because it released in December of 2003, and it was the 3rd highest grossing movie of that year before it went on to win Best Picture. So you have to go back all the way to 2003 to find a movie that made nearly as much money in the calendar year that it was released as the movie that is projected to win Best Picture this year. That's crazy. When you look at other award shows, a lot of times Best Pictures are going to movies that are popular, that people really enjoyed, that made money at the box office. Not always, but more often you're going to get that. And the Academy could really learn a lesson from those other award shows, because that's what people want to see. Is Barbie going to win Best Picture this year? No, probably not. But are people going to turn in to see if it gets the upset victory? To see what awards it actually walks away with? Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually a better viewership this year for the award show because of movies like Oppenheimer, 5th highest, Barbie, highest. The Best Animated Feature just has 2 huge movies in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and the Super Mario Brothers movie. So if you nominate movies that people liked and that people actually saw, it's possible they'll watch your award show. I know, crazy thought, crazy thinking, but it's gonna work. And as always, we're gonna finish up with the 2024 current top 10 movies of the year. In first place is still Wonka with $61.8 million. Mean Girls stays in second with $60.4. Migration in third with $46.8 million. Anyone But You stays in fourth with $46.1 million. Those two have just been tight together so far this year since their release. They came out the same weekend, and they are always 4th and 5th spot every week. And they are just battling. It's going to be very interesting to see where they both end up. The Beekeeper actually moves up a spot into 5th place with $41.5 million, knocking Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom, down to 6th place with $41.5 million. The rest of the chart stays the same, with Night Swim in 7th, The Boys in the Boat in 8th, The Iron Claw in 9th, and The Color Purple rounding out the current top 10. All right, let me know in the comments below what you thought about the history look at the Oscars and their theatrical box office. Are there any new movies that you're interested to see? Are you going to watch the Oscars this year? What do you think about the top 10 nominations for Best Picture? Let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to come back tomorrow to check out a new video that's releasing all about the movies you can check out in February. Until next time, just remember to be good to yourself, be kind to others, and as always, keep watching movies.